so much for watching my YouTube channel. We're continuing our series on preparing for Easter, and I'm super pumped because we get to see pictures from a recent trip I did to Israel, and today we're looking at a picture of a pool, the Pool of Bethesda. Oh my gosh, I love this pool, and I love the story is based in John chapter 5, and it's a story of a man who was sick for 38 years, and he hung out by the edge of this pool. This pool you can see here in the picture, it's basically it's in Jerusalem, and it's super close to the temple. And what would happen is right by the sheep gate, and what happens is people would bring in their animals through the sheep gate, and they would bring them to this pool and wash them in the pool, and then bring them to the priest for sacrifice, to sacrifice on the brazen altar. And this pool also was a place where sick people would hang out, and the line on it is the angel would come, stir the water, and somebody jump in and get healed once a year, something to that effect. And there's this guy that's hanging out by this pool, and Jesus comes. This is in John chapter 5, and it's the very first miracle Jesus does in Jerusalem. Jesus comes and sees this guy, 38 years sick, and he says to the guy, "Do you want to be well?" I think that's such an important question for all of us, wherever you're at in your life. Do you want to be well? And I think that's important because a lot of times when we've been sick or hurting or in pain or had dysfunction in our lives, we hold on to that, we keep it, and we manage to accommodate it. We create, and I call this compensatory, we compensate for the dysfunction, the pain, the hurt, compensatory behavior. And a lot of times we want to keep that behavior rather than getting well. Because if we get well, that means we're going to have to stop doing things or start doing things. We're going to have to be responsible and not all these different issues. And Jesus says to the guy, "Do you want to be well?" And I think he asks us that question today. Because for you and me, we have stuff that was dysfunctional. Pain, hurt, areas in our lives, mindsets, injuries from our childhood, maybe from our parents, something. But the question is, do you want to be well? And I like the guy's answer. He says to Jesus, "I don't have anybody to put me in the pool when the water stirs." And Jesus says to him, "Get up, pick up your mat, and walk." And I appreciate that when we live with Jesus, Jesus is always healing us so that we can walk. We can have fullness. We can have abundance. We can have health in our relationships, health in our bodies, health in our emotions, in our mindsets, in how we interact, the mental conversations, health. But the question for us today is, do you want to be well? And walking with Jesus helps us to walk in health. Health in our thoughts, health in our behaviors, health in our choices, health in our outlook. So I just encourage you today, Jesus is here to help us to get up, pick up our mat, and walk. And just as a quick follow-up, remember this, that the guy did that, and he walked around, and the Jews in Jerusalem gave him a hard time because he wasn't supposed to carry his mat on the Sabbath. And Jesus follows up with the guy after all of the hardship that the Jews put on him for carrying his mat on the Sabbath, and Jesus says to him, "Hey, I'm the one who healed you, and I want to encourage you to stop sinning. Don't sin. Stop sinning, because if you keep sinning, worse things are going to happen." And I appreciate that Jesus not only heals the guy, but then he speaks to the relationship between the guy as well as his heavenly Father. And Jesus wants to heal us, of course, no doubt, because Jesus is the healer by design. And increasingly, we have to be aware that not only is Jesus about healing, but Jesus is about reconciliation and relationship, keeping us close and connected. So I just encourage you today that Jesus has healing for us, and Pool of Bethesda speaks to us 2,000 years later. So thank you so much for watching. Appreciate you hanging out and giving me feedback, thumbs up, thumbs down. Love to have you subscribe. That would be fantastic. And I have a joke for you here at the end. I steal some of my jokes off the internet because it helps a little bit. And what do you call a paleontologist who sleeps all the time? Lazy bones. I know. You're like, that is super lame. I know, but it's only going to get better. And remember, next week we're going to be celebrating Palm Sunday, and then we get leading up into Easter. So we got this great series working. Make sure you pass it on to your friends, share it. It's going to be absolutely phenomenal and fun to go back and look and see the progression. Thanks again. God bless.